So today I want to go through how to set up a budget. And when we're doing this, one of my goals is going to be to show you the flexibility of how you can set these up to tell the story that is the event. And I always look at setting up an event like telling a story. An event has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you want to kind of go through the story with the client in formulating that budget. There are many, many, many different ways you can go about doing it, but I'm going to show you three different scenarios in this particular section. Um, and you can refer to the book, the Dummies book that was created for this section is Section 1, Part 5A, Budget. So if you want to refer to that portion of the book, then this will pertain to this setup. So let me share my screen. Okay, so the other sections we went through were contact company. We showed how to enter company, we showed how to enter contacts, and we showed how the intake forms are created from the contact person. But once the intake form has been created, you can access that just on this list here by opening up future event forms. So once the intake form is done and you're all out of that particular contact form, you can just enter into here and you can still edit um, all this stuff from that button. So there are three different quote unquote events going on here, and I'm going to show you all three one by one. This first one, the 36 Caliber Awards, that is one event within one date within one intake form. And so this is a pretty simple one when you're setting this budget up. So we went through the intake form information, how to fill all that stuff out before. So now you're basically ready to start um, creating the budget itself. So when we go into this section, it's called a phase section. This section is really about creating the chapters that you want to um, put in line items for billing and so on and so forth. So each one of these lines, decor and floral, multimedia presentation, technical, event staff, labor, transportation, and miscellaneous, you could pretend that these are like chapters titles because they're just meant to be just the headline of whatever it is that's going to go under there. And I'll go more into that in a minute, but these are not meant to be like long drawn out um, explanations of anything except to say, what is the chapter title for this particular section that we want to give to the client? And I'll show you also how it looks on the contract and where it is from there. But in this form is pretty simple, but there's a lot to it. At the top of this form, there are also a number of tabs here. So there's the phase form, which is what this is, phase form. But then you go into the reports, contracts and budgets, invoicing and statements, office-related types of reporting, production reporting, the vendors for vendor orders and edits, and then entering labor that you're going to need to execute this event. So these are the tabs that you can access reports once everything's filled out. But obviously, if we're just starting the creation of that, these reports will be empty for now. When we go back to here, you'll see that when you're talking about sort orders, and that's this here, I usually go in like 100s, like 100, 200, 300, because as you're going through the um, revision process or even more development process, then you don't want to have to change all the numbers if you need to tuck something in between something else. So I give myself a very wide berth in terms of numbers, sorting numbers. So I usually go by 100s. let's see, what else then? High totals, I'll go back through that again when we get into the more of the reporting aspect of this. You can see, so there's a description header, the phase number. Whoops, these are not aligned correctly. So these three titles should be shifted over. This is the event number. It stays the same. It's very static. It comes from this number here. So the event number is just showing you that. Now, if you wanted to change it because you decided you wanted to move everything else to another event, you could just change this number. It will take every single thing on this level and down, which you'll understand more about when we get into later. It'll just move all of that information over at one time. This is the phase number. So these are numbers that are important when we get into, again, edits, audits, and wanting to change things around once we started a proposal. These numbers are important for you to understand how they can manipulate other parts of the database. Then we got on the very, very bottom here, budget notes, addendum notes, and these are all notes that would appear on just that, budgets or addendums at the bottom within the terms. If there's something important that you need to clarify for the client, or you want to put something all in caps that brings it to their attention, you can do that in one of these notes. And then the budget level updates, these buttons will do things like, and this will make more sense once you understand what that budget level is, which is the next one down. But these will manipulate data on those levels, and I will show you the examples of that when we get back into the deeper dives into this. But you can see on this one, so for this particular event, it's one event, so all the decor and floral are going in here, and then there's a change where we're talking about multimedia presentations. So these are the chapter headlines for this particular event. You can do this in a number of different ways. So here's another event. This Prologis event was built out where there are more than one event on the same intake form. This could be for reasons that the salesperson and the producer just felt it would be easier for the client to see the whole thing on one totaled report. You can see that over here, when it says event date, it says the 3rd through the 5th, right? So that's why, that's why this has, starting on May 3rd, goes to the 4th, and then I'm assuming then that because it says the 5th, the strike is on the 5th. But you can see then that each one of these headlines is a different event. And what's structured underneath is everything that's going into that event that the client will then see and that we can make orders off of. So this is one. First one was IIDA was one event within one intake. This particular one, the producer and the salesperson chose to do several events within one intake form. Again, there are a number of different reasons to choose this, and sometimes you just have to go back to the source and ask, why'd you do that instead of something else? Because this one where you see there's a white cap, white cap, white cap, white cap, white cap, this is what we call a series. And a series is then tied together up here with this number so that the same reporting that you're doing will then pull up series reports for all of it. It's a little bit, it's just a different way of approaching it. So the flexibility within this program is pretty extensive, and putting together a budget really does require a little bit of pre-thought when you're deciding, is this just one single event? We're just going to do it all in here. Do we have to accommodate for other things? The beauty of it is, however, if you choose to go from one type of format to another type of format, the changes are normally easy, fast and very, very, very simple. So you can move things around, change things around within a line item, within an order level, um, within a phase, very, very easily, and take all of the data that's attached to that along with it by just changing one number. So let's see what else in this level. I think that I'm going to wrap this one and then we can talk about, well, let's just go right on into then what is going in underneath all of this. For each line item. So we've set this up and we said again, here's the headlines, here you go. What is going under the decor and floral? These are the line items, and these are the things that the client is going to see on their contract proposals, general budgets. This is the information that they will see. So they will see information coming from this form. They will see information coming from this form, and they will see information coming from this form. So when you're looking at this particular screen, each one of these is a form. So this is what's called a cascading form, so that the producer, whoever's coming in to edit, audit these, can fill in a new one. So when you're down to the last line item and there's an asterisk, this is another form that's just waiting to be filled out. So it won't appear anywhere. It's not real yet because it's not been populated. But you can add 1 or 1,000 or 10,000 lines to every one of these headlines, right? So this particular headline, and again, I do the sort order by hundreds normally. You can come up with your own system to figure out where you're splitting things. But this particular form, then, you want to be really, really sure that you're being detailed on this so that the client is clear about what it is, because again, this is what the client is seeing. Let me just give you an idea of what that looks like. Go to a standard contract. Most of this front page is all off the intake form. Then when we get into the body of this, the decor and florals part here, that's in bold, that's the headline. All of these things are the things that are underneath it in those line items. And so once again, you go into decor and floral, these are all of those things in the line items under the heading of decor and floral. So this is also very flexible in terms of what you can do and how you can manage and manipulate it. So we've said sort order is 100, again, 105, 110. That's because we've used a header. The blue you can either use as just line items or you can use it as a header. And then if you're using it as a header and you've got other things underneath it, you would fill in the gray section because that'll indent that section underneath this particular header. You do not have to use this. If you want everything to just be in one solid line, then you just use all of the blue. But again, how you approach it, how you see it on a budget, how it translates to the client, that is all part of what the strategy is when you're building budgets. So optional, this would just mean that the item is optional for the client. It does not total in the bottom line. Direct means this is a direct bill item. It means it's not going on our contracting. It's going into a general budget, and that general budget will be shared with the client in order for the client to sign off on which contracts they're ready to sign. So we'll go through that process later as well, but that's what that's for. Again, this is either a header or if everything is just going into a menu type of situation on your budget. This is for if you're doing a secondary line that you want to see indented underneath that header, registration and check-in, and then the white is notes underneath that particular line item. So in this case, you can see pre-function is a header, registration and check-in is a sub to that, and includes all tables, linen, and chairs. So the example that I have here on the contract for that is here. So you've got decor and florals, the title. You've got pre-function, which is the header. And then you've got registration and check-in. And then you have the notes. So that's how those particular fields populate on your budget so that you can see how it's stacked in this case. Now, over here, estimate. This is just to let the client know that before you go into contracting, you're giving them an estimate. The language in the proposal is going to indicate that as such and such a date, we may not be able to honor this price anymore. So this is just an estimate until you sign, and then we can confirm. So that will, everything that has a price next to it should have estimate when it goes through the proposal process. The quantity can or does not have to be used. These fields right now, so if I said 1 to 2, it goes 1 times 2 is 2, but they not rely on each other. So you could just do this and just put 2 here. It doesn't rely on quantities to be filled in. The reason for that is because a lot of times if quantity 1, you don't want to say 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, it doesn't matter. So you can have quantities for 2 and over. Sometimes the price doesn't make a lot of sense, and you're going to put a 2 in here, and you're going to put a 4 in here, and nothing in a unit price. This is dangerous, but you can do it. There's a lot of flexibility on how you enter into these fields. The reporting on these will not go by whatever calculation is being created here on this form. It's going to go by the calculations created in the report. So the report will always be accurate in terms of what it's looking at. Apply sales tax means that it's a taxable item. And then if you wanted to do an override, for instance, like this one, it says provided by hotel. Let me give you an example. So we go into our budget again. And so instead of there being a number here, it just says provided by hotel. The override will, like if there was a number in the amount field, this would override it completely, but it will not take it out of the bottom line of a total. So you have to be kind of careful when you're entering in here, because if you intend to put, like you coming back and you put $500 in, it says provided by hotel, that report is still going to show provided by hotel, right? It doesn't show the $500, but that $500 will be in the bottom line of this contract or this proposal. And that is by design. So let's see.